Our guest for this hour is seated, and we're looking at security issues. Not the guy who's standing outside your gate, and hoping that, lest the Lord guards the house, the watchman watches in vain. Not that kind of thing. We're looking at a different kind of security this morning.
The one who's not working in vain.
Thank you, please.
Yes.
As we're getting into that, our guest for this hour is here. Jules Delahaije is the CEO of Sigei Security. And this morning, we're going to be looking at evolving cybersecurity challenges in Kenya. And when we talk about breaches here and there, what are we talking about? And at the point whereby it could be a little bit tricky on how to deal with them, but he's here to have that conversation with us this morning. Jules, karibu sana.
Good morning. Thank you. Welcome. Glad to be here together with you.
Yeah, you're in the hot seat of the Situation Room.
Yeah.
And we're getting into some, serious matters here. But let's welcome you first with today's proverb. CT goes around the continent every week. Don't ask me how. Just accept that it happens. And he comes back every week from a different country with a basket full of proverbs. He's going to share that proverb with you and tell you where it's from. And then you can tell us how you would interpret it. All right.
Okay.
Our proverbs, the whole of this week, come from the Gambia, the Republic of the Gambia. The disobedient fowl obeys in a bowl of soup.
Wow.
Well, I'll join you and laugh.
Oh, wow. Okay. You actually did.
Citi's laughter is on pause. She's just waiting, laugh now.
Yes. Well, yes. I mean, even when I think of this proverb, I also find it
makes you very happy, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Especially if you like chicken soup, my
Yes.
friend.
Yes.
The one my grandmother used to make.
So how would you interpret that proverb, Jules?
Sorry?
How would you interpret that?
Well, yeah, well, there's many things to look at it. Indeed, we all like soup, but it's a bit a weird statement.
It is weird.
It's quite weird.
It's agricultural as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm a bit flabbergasted actually too.
Actually, take a wild swing at it. The thing about the proverbs, you can't be wrong.
Yeah.
Yes. It doesn't matter how you interpret it. You cannot be wrong.
No. Well, if you look at, let me do a very wild thing and look more to a security aspect. You start to wonder, what is this? Am I hearing this correctly?
Yeah. Yes.
Or is there something completely different ongoing? And it starts to remind me of Roald Dahl, who had fantastic stories. And is it really, are the things the way they look like, or is it something completely different?
That is the beauty of a proverb, because you can attach any meaning you like to
exactly.
it. Yes.
Exactly. But anyway, I like it. So.
And we also thank you for avoiding answering the question.
You've done that brilliantly well.
But to give you an example, my grandmother always used to pick the chicken that was pecking the others the most. That is the one that became soup. Yes.
So the one that seems wayward,
yes,
at some point is going to conform to the way that I want it to once I have control. And the control, I have it into soup.
Yeah.
Tasty.
So speaking about control, we're getting into that conversation, and let's start off with this: that the according to reports from the Communications Authority of Kenya, and cybersecurity experts, insider threats in Kenya are a significant concern. With studies indicating that over 80% of system-related fraud and theft in the country is perpetrated by employees or other insiders. It is not somebody sitting in some dark room somewhere remotely. It is within the organization, 80%. They've also gone to highlight the prevalence of the enemy within in Kenyan organizations, leading to substantial financial and reputational damages. Cybercriminals are increasingly targeting mobile devices, exploiting vulnerables in apps, unsecured networks, and phishing schemes to infiltrate organizations. But again, 80% of these are from within the organization. Now, if we look over time, security has been set up for organizations through a technology point of view to keep the organization safe from external threats, right? But with this, it seems as though the threat is not outside, but it is inside with individuals who know the system in and out. What are we looking at, Jules?
Yeah, many aspects here, quite interesting. Of course, you were referring originally to, let's say, traditional physical security.
Yes.
On one hand. And what you see quite often happen, people just separate it like, we have physical security and we have cybersecurity. Quite often I hear people even referring to, but cybersecurity, that's IT. And physical security, that is, the security companies and the guiding.
Yes.
And of course, these things you can't separate. Coming to the statistics, just to start, there are indeed statistics that many crimes are, particular burglary, also in cybersecurity, are indeed coming from the inside. But if you look at those statistics from the inside, it's a question, what type of cybercrime are we talking about, and how is it done? To give you an example, you mentioned the mobile phones. I have it here, and just every day I get spam and malware.
Yeah.
I don't know how about you, whether you even recognize it or not, but I'll give you one that just a few minutes came in. It's from a courier business. Important message. Sorry, we couldn't deliver your package.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Please push here so that you see the latest status where it is.
I thought it was going to tell you that there are singles in your area near you.
and that could be the case as well. But you push on it, but and why I'm referring to it, because if you say it's coming from the inside, now you're an employee. Yeah?
Right.
You get emails every day, and sometimes it's emails like this. And if you don't check properly what that email or message is about, you're into it already. So it's now you who have given access to your system or to the company system outside. So you might not be aware. So it's not per se that you are now have become a criminal, but they are targeting, the criminals are targeting all of us. And a message like this, you think like, okay, a courier, I didn't call for a courier service, but you still feel, hey, I've missed something, so you push, potentially. And it looks quite genuine. It's the logo of the company. But there's one thing that we all should look at. Is the email genuine? So look at the email address. Because now I push on the email address because it looks like it's from the post or whatever courier service. But if you click on it, on the address, not on the message itself, but on the address, you see suddenly, a completely weird name, something that has nothing to do with the service.
Right.
And sometimes these criminals are very arrogant about it. They put, for instance, Jack Frauder or something, or
John Doe.
No, really, it's weird like that. So if you look at it, you can already see, hey, this is not genuine, And yes, you're right. If we talk about cybersecurity, it's a very broad aspect. There is, on one hand, we are dealing with hardware, we are dealing with software, and we are dealing with the human factor. And it's the combination of those three that create a cybersecurity environment.
Just a quick question. I don't know whether you know Hush Puppy. Very famous guy was arrested out of Dubai.
Wait, I thought it was a shoe brand.
They are actually a shoe
They
brand.
are a shoe brand.
Yes.
So Hush Puppy was based out of Dubai, and he would send emails to companies, big companies, and create invoices and get paid for services he didn't render. And he did this for about, $200 million or something like that. Then I'm looking at my email, because when you were talking, I was like, what do I get in my spam? And I almost resigned because I've been sent 1,000 $13,963 US. Was about to tell Ndu and City buy. But my question is, connect for me these emails and this kind of people like Hash Papi who send these emails. What is the net result? What's happening at the back end of that? So what is the breach for? Are they just emailing me in the hope that I will send them the 13,000 instead of receiving it? How does it work on the other side?
It's one of the many examples, and there's all kinds of different scams. But this is typically one where, indeed, they send thousands of these emails, throughout. And indeed, for instance, invoices they would target preferably finance departments of companies, and sometimes a small amounts, sometimes even big amounts, and indeed they just count on you. They threaten even, you have not paid on time.
Yes.
And there are people just feeling like the heat. They feel the pressure. They just make the payment. And can you imagine if only 1% reacts, but you have sent 100,000 emails?
Yeah.
That's still 100, or actually 1,000 in this particular case. Success. So and it's so some of them are like this. It's really they send it to everybody, and if you touch the wrong button or you react, then already it's about making the payment. But quite often the mails go even much further. It's not for you to make the payment. You need to hit that one button.
Right.
Reply.
I'm wondering why it's having anybody worried today. Because by now, by the time you see the message on your phone, you know that it is it's spam or it's a scam. If you receive the email about how some Johnson is in love with you and he just needs you to send 13,000 whatever, and then he'll come.
Even worse.
By now, it's not. It's somebody who's up to no good. So why are we still dealing with this in 2025 when we know that they've tried everything? People have been jailed. We know that those are just it's spam. Why is it still a bother? And we know that cybersecurity, in terms of its protection, has increased tenfold, 100-fold.
Yeah,
but then why are we still having?
Yeah, I think first of all, still many people are not aware of this, and I think that's why it's good programs like this to create that awareness, because people are quite ignorant, innocent, and I think we need to do much more about it. I mentioned your mobile device. In the past, the mobile device, it was stolen because of the value of the device. Today we are not so interested in the device anymore. We are interested in the data on the device. And let's for all of us, we have M-Pesa or M-Pal or whatever. It's on your phone, the data. So basically, your phone is your bank already. So now I'm looking after the money that is there and your data, because with your data I can get more and more into my criminal activities. So basically, I think we should be much more aware. Where are the scams? What is going on? You're right. If you look at those statistics, they tell you what we know. But it's the tip of the iceberg. There is much more going on. And how many people do report? If you have been part of a scam or whatever, are you really open about it? Are you going to the police? Are you going to report it?
Should you? I guess that's the other side of security now, that if it's for some reason, if somebody comes to rob you in your house or, on the side of the road or, stolen your phone, the likelihood of you going to the police, for example, is very high. However, if you've been scanned online, somebody says, send me 2,500 shillings, people do, then it looks legit and you send the 2,500 shillings, the likelihood of folks going to report to the police then drop significantly.
Yeah, you're right.
Why is that?
Yeah, I don't know. I think maybe people don't, they feel ashamed, I think, quite a lot.
That is the biggest reason,
I think that is the biggest reason, indeed. And sometimes, they feel like, hey, I've been stupid about it. I didn't know. And let's be honest, even if, just a very simple example, we were talking about the phone, the mobile phone, and to touch that button. You should not touch it. Now you're in the car.
Yeah.
Let's hope you were not driving, because you're not allowed to use the phone while driving. But now you're sitting next to it. You pass a speed bump, and up by accident you have pushed that button.
Yeah.
Oh, how stupid! Are you going to tell everybody, the whole world, this happened? You should do this. I think really, it's not something to be ashamed of, but we should realize, this is a big problem, and we should create that awareness about amongst ourselves. But think about elder people that are not used to the devices. Think about kids. We allow the kids to be on the smartphone everywhere. And do you know what they are doing? Do you know really what's going on? That's how, a lot of these issues occur.
So many examples pop in my head. For example, a kid who ordered a $5,000 TV for their parents. There are pig butchering schemes that are happening, funded by the military junta in Myanmar. We've got that Asian Triangle area, which is notorious for these schemes, Eastern Europe and things like that. Then you've got the localized criminals when you're wanakulanga fair. I'll translate that for you. These are digital criminals who pretend to be other people. Then you send your money. Now, in all of these things, I am trying to think of the particular danger that the Kenyan finds himself in. So, for example, if in Europe or the United States, they want to steal your identity so they can create credit cards and do card swapping. Is identity theft the biggest issue in Africa? Is it just financial scams? Is it related to your bank account, or is it related to you sending money directly? Is it more personal? Someone texting me and saying, "Hi, this is Du. My phone is off. I am in Uganda. Please send me 10,000 shillings." What are we seeing more in Africa, and how is it different from the West?
Well, I don't think it's different from the West. I think you see it all. All these things you're happening, and that's the scary part. It's not just one single effort. Those are the things you see. But did you know that every electronic device has a chip in it and has software? There are statistics that 25% of that software has mistakes in it, and those are genuine mistakes. Just mistakes in when the software was developed. But there are sometimes also, let's say, on-purpose mistakes. Backdoors, exactly. And we are not aware of that. And that's the scary part. Yeah? Do you know? Do you know which software, which devices you're using? You don't know. If you have at home, for instance, a fiber optic cable, and it's hanging in the streets, isn't it? You see it quite often. And you have a fiber cut, and you think maybe, it was the monkeys that have cut it. But it's very simple. If you cut that wire, you put a very small device in between. Now I have all the data. Are we aware of this?
How can you get aware? Because imagine that. Imagine that you just want to put up Wi-Fi in your house, or you've just bought a phone because you need to communicate. Really, it's not top of mind that somebody could be trying to compromise in one way or another. It's that I need to buy a gadget for communication. So how can you be aware?
Yeah, that's a difficult one. So first of all, I think deal with official suppliers. Deal with official service providers that are known. But even there, you have to be very careful. You mentioned now the inside jobs. Sometimes the inside jobs, think about banks. I'll give you two examples that happened last year, to me. Is where someone from the bank calls me and says, I'm so-and-so from the bank. There's a problem with your system. You have to reset your passwords. And this was for the company. So you have to reset your password. Can you please give in your login details and your password? And now you start to laugh at it.
Yes.
Because obviously, what is your answer?
How can I give you my password and my login details?
Why would
Yeah.
I? Yeah.
Why would
But even first, you think immediately, this is a big scam, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Yes.
Yeah. Now, I check through our finance department. I have been called so-and-so, and obviously I didn't give all these details. I have been called by the bank, by so-and-so, with this. Guess what?
The person doesn't exist.
No, it's the opposite. The person
Person
exists.
does exist, and
he
they're
does
there
exist,
in the office.
and he is working at the bank, and it was a genuine request.
Sorry?
Sorry, it was a genuine request.
Is that the way such requests should be made?
Of course not. It's not. But now it starts to become confusing, isn't it?
No, it becomes very confusing because
Because then I contacted the bank, and one of the seniors, I said, well, I got this request. Oh yeah, no, but it's from IT. He's a good guy, and there was a problem with this, so it was okay. I said, no, it's not okay. Now I'm talking as the head of a security company. I said, this is not okay. Yeah, but it was genuine. I said, yes, that's what you think. And maybe the person was genuine at that point in time, sorted you out, solved the problem. But half a year later, something else is happening now to you.
Okay.
Yeah?
So a lot of stuff to look into. And I want to look into then how you start to solve some of these things, if you must, or must you be on eternal vigilance, essentially. We're having a conversation this morning about rising cybersecurity issues and the fact that a lot of these issues come from within. So it's not the enemy external, it's the enemy within. Jules Delahaije is the CEO of SGA Security, and we're here having that conversation with him this morning. And we're looking at, security and saying, okay, all of this is combined. And I've seen a couple of things whereby understanding the reason behind why there would be breaches. There's somebody who's after something, information, kind of data that would help them, money, obviously. And then understanding that, does that understanding then make it easier to protect these boundaries that we speak of?
Absolutely. I think, and that's what it's all about. Quite often use common sense, but also if you've heard of the examples, how others have been scammed or robbed, or then at least you will be more alert. What are the tips and tricks there? And let's also make a distinction between the smaller parts, the smaller, the phishing mails, etc. Those are part of quite big schemes, but there is also more, on individual level, but also at company levels. Create that awareness, have strict rules, have clear, are you monitoring your passwords every day? Are you changing them frequently, for instance? Are you protecting your own data? Does it feel right if somebody asks you certain very detailed questions about your account? A bank, I gave an example, but in reality, of course, a bank will never ask those questions to you. They don't, even not by email, not by phone. So if somebody does, already there is something
There's a
going
problem.
on. So use your instinct on one hand, but also it is important, like the media have more and more attention for these challenges and problems. And don't forget, there is a big group. We are talking maybe, some of it seems small, but in reality, those are big programs. But don't forget, there's also the more aggressive ones. Those are very big criminal organizations. Is cyber attacks. Now I'm attacking your system.
Yes.
Ransomware. Now I'm blocking your system. I get into your computer, I block it, you can't use it anymore. Now maybe for an individual there might not be too much on it, but for a company, if you have heard some of the scams, and you're right, even where an individual is ashamed to make it public that they had been part of a big crime, what about a bank or the government? Are they open about this?
Yeah.
Are they willing to say, hey, we are unsafe? And that's a challenge, because I think they should be open about it, not telling, of course, all the details of how it happened, etc. in one end, but at the same time also creating the awareness that
To say
it's
that it
everywhere.
happened and not necessarily what happened. Okay.
Or not in detail. You would still, because I think from every single incident and accident you can learn. And I can tell you from many insights, it's done in a very clever way. It's not just, you think you're stupid, but at the end, if somebody tells you, gives you all the data that you feel they can't know it unless it's reliable. It must be the right person. It must be my relative, because otherwise they don't know.
Yeah.
But
That's
does
the
it then
clever
not
part.
speak of a certain type of personality or individuals and the way they think that plays into this? Because there are those who scam, and then there are those who are scammed.
Yep.
Now, for you to be scammed, what sort of person must you be?
If you must.
Before he answers, I want to give facts of the day. Okay? Do you know what percentage of passwords are numerically simple, like 1, 2, 3, 4?
Oh, okay.
31%.
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly.
Then, fact number 2, do you know how many people whose password is the year they were born? Another 30%.
Exactly.
Do you know people's most popular security question? What is your mother's name?
Maiden name.
Yes.
Maiden name.
So,
What is the name of your daughter or your son?
Yeah, so I go to Google. I Google city Muga, born 1979.
No.
So that's a different city.
Okay, go on.
I was talking about Christopher. Christopher Timothy. So then I see your mother's name.
Yeah, exactly.
I go and try. First I try 1, 2, 3, 4. Then I try 1979. Then it asks me security question. And I say Jacqueline Muga. Bada bing, bada boom, I'm in. So the person might not be gullible, but they're just security unconscious.
And think
Right.
about AI now. Now, with password, and if you have simple passwords, you run a program, and in less than a minute, you will be hit if you don't put a bit more intelligence into the password, and if you don't change it frequently. So you have to do this. And of course, it's bothersome. Well, nowadays, quite more severe programs or softwares require more complicated passwords. You can't use those names, or you can't. You need to have. You had to add certain signs or capitals or etc. to it. But indeed, changing the password is a very key thing.
The question that I was asking is, are we saying that technology has made the enterprise of theft a growth industry, so that people aspire to be criminals? And because it is easier? Because from everything we're saying, we see criminal interns, people who are figuring out whether this is an occupation that they can be good for them. Then there's full-grown self-employed. Then you find a cottage industry, a couple of people who do this thing. Then you find the full-blown enterprises where it's not just 1 or 2 people. It is actually a setup. They are organized, and that is what they do, and they plan these things in enormous details.
Yes.
Yep.
So, if I were to play the blaming game, then I would say technology has made this possible. Or are we living in times when human beings are more criminally inclined?
I would for sure say, well, technology in itself, human beings have not changed over time. Criminality was there from day one, sorry, but so that has not changed. There's always a percentage. Think about the Nobel Prize. Why is the Nobel Prize? People abused technology, and that will always be the case. And yes, you're right. it becomes much easier. Those, the criminality, cybercrime is not, there are individuals, but in general, they're well organized people. So it's organized crime. And if I can rob you without you seeing me, in the past I had to take your money, your wallet, I had to confront you. You could recognize me, you could see me. If I now hide behind a fake name on social media or in an app or in a website, or, and I pretend that I'm somebody completely different than you think I am, it makes it already difficult. And actually, I think you asked earlier, is it something specific for Kenya? Why do we think the criminals come from Kenya? They could come from all over the world. And I tell you, and I tell you, they do come from all over the world, and the other way around. There are groups and gangs here in Kenya that don't, commit the crimes here. They commit them everywhere in the world. So it makes it more difficult to catch them. That's one of the challenges, because you have to understand exactly what the programs are, how they are dealing with it. It's more difficult to catch them, but there are also technology and means to counter.
See, there was also the issue of those who are scammed. What is it that would make an individual more vulnerable towards scamming? Because not everybody is easy to scam. They are somewhere much easier to scam.
There are a few psychological tricks that are played. One is romance, loneliness, need for companionship.
That's a big group.
Two is greed and sunk cost fallacy. Yeah.
Who fallacy?
Sunk cost fallacy.
That guy.
Yeah. So what a sunk cost fallacy is how you feel like you've invested so much in something you can't pull out. Yeah. I don't know whether you've ever seen someone conned in town. They've been told, give me your laptop, someone goes upstairs, then you find them there an hour later, believing the guy will come back. That's a sunk cost fallacy. You think that you've invested, so it must come back.
Somebody asks me for my computer.
You give them willingly.
And I give them my computer.
Yeah, it happens quite a bit.
And you stand and wait for them to go and come back.
And I'm in the middle of town.
Yes.
And this is somebody I know, someone I don't know.
It's someone you don't know.
And I give them my computer.
Yes.
How exactly does that happen?
I'm telling you, miracles happen. So, for example, they can pretend that they picked up a big bundle of notes, right? Then they tell you, come we share. I'm just giving you examples. But in the life of cybercrime, for example, this pig butchering thing, what was it? It was estimated that they raked in around $4-5 billion last year. This is stuff that is being done at government level. Like there's a whole country whose army is paying for its bills using these schemes. So it's actually quite a number of people, surprisingly, despite the number of things that happen. And then work emails are even worse because, you see, they're not your personal emails. So your work email, the admin gives you a password, you never change it, you never check it. Then one day someone calls you and tells you, oh, check email, I need you to forward an invoice, right? You look at it, it's from ABCD Bank, it seems legit, you hit send. Then suddenly you have legitimized a fake invoice because, so it depends really on the
I'm asking the question, I am hearing you explaining it, and it goes back to the psychology, what sort of individual is likely to be scammed, because you asked me for an invoice, and I
don't even have anything to do with that process.
Let me give you an example. Let me give you an example. So on this show, we could have one of our clients, Bichachi Shoeshine, right? And Bichachi Shoeshine writes to you and says, oh, remember the thing we did last year? You're like, yeah. So there's a refund that we expect. We discussed with Joyce, and Joyce, and I'm sending you an email, just confirm that we did do a show with you last year. So for you, it's confirming you did a show. But to finance, you are legitimizing that particular email.
I'm with CT here. Maybe Jules, you can share some light on that, because the way in which things have changed over time, that there is several factors of verification that you would have to go through in order to verify a payment, for example. Gone are the days when you go and tell somebody, oh, CT has called finance and said, oh, by the way, I've verified, and then somebody will go and pay because CT said I've verified, they came on the show. What is the likelihood of that happening? So it goes back to the psychology of the person being scammed, and also the psychology of the person doing the scamming. There must be something else that we are saying is there for you to be able to pick up on.
Yeah, I think you have all the varieties. You can pick. Sometimes it's indeed basic tricks. Are indeed to give you comfort. The person knows you or pretends that he or she knows you. Pretends they are somebody else, so feel comfortable. They give you some facts that you think only a trustworthy person can know about me. So that is one part of it. The other part is indeed, if you look at employees, quite often because there are within the company, they feel comfortable, they feel relaxed about who they do. How often, ask the question, would people give their password, their access to a colleague whilst they're away, or
give the access card?
Give the access card, or something like, can you help me out? Or I forgot my access card. Can I give it to you? Very basic things. You don't think about it, but those are all security issues.
Okay.
They all create, and criminals are observing that. They are really clever about it.
So in terms of what they're observing, because then I see that the development of technology then is a bane of all of this, because as we get into more intricate developments of technology, then the doors are opened even wider for some of the threats that we see, isn't it?
Yeah.
That even with, like, on some of our social media, the 3-factor verification issue that you have to go through 3 stages before somebody knows that it's actually you. But there's somebody who is, behind the scenes tinkering about to ensure that they can crack that as well.
Yeah.
I mean, how many times have you said, well, I got a message from CT, and you see CT the next day and say, I didn't send you a message. Yeah. So, I mean, we're still dealing with that even today. So isn't that a problem? Yeah. The more advanced we become in technological feats, the more advanced the threats are.
Absolutely. And it is a race. It's an instant race, where let's say the good guys and the bad guys. It's, that's what technology is about, where in the past it were very simple means, very simple crimes. You could with simple means also protect yourself. And now it becomes more and more important. We have a saying, in our company, we do also cash in transit, and we do vaulting and whatever. And I used to give the example, if I would use the corner of the room and I would staple it with banknotes, then in the past I could argue, okay, let me put 10 or 100 guards, armed guards in front of that, and they would protect whatever is there. Nobody would dare even to get there. But now I changed that corner, those banknotes, with a computer server. Those guards don't make sense. What can they do? They can't protect what's in there. And actually the value that is in that server might be 1 million multiple of what is there in banknotes. So even the magnitude is much bigger, and that's what technology, on one hand, AI, it's a good thing, but it also becomes a scary thing. And so we need to protect ourselves and be aware of those threats.
City, if you imagine how much bank robbers stole last year in Kenya, what amount would we say?
Bank robbers.
Yes.
Yeah. You must understand that when you ask me about bank robbers, I think of people going to the bank.
Yes, those ones.
With handkerchiefs around their noses.
Yes.
Exactly.
How much would you estimate we lost in bank robberies last year?
I don't think it was much.
Yeah. Well, maximum you can never imagine per year is maybe 20 million if it's an extreme year.
20 million is extreme.
I was just going to say.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, how would you carry that money?
Now just hold on. Do you know how much was lost, according to the Communications Authority, on cybercrime in the same year?
No.
10.7 billion shillings.
Oh.
Banks, I hear from apocryphal sources, so take this with a pinch of salt, lost 4 billion last year.
Which means they lost more. Because
I was just going to say,
Yes.
these statistics tell you maybe
They give you the
10%
lower
or
part
even
of it.
less
Yes.
than 10%.
Yes.
given the nature of that
real
business,
number.
you cannot openly say
You
you
lost.
have to understate what it is that you
Exactly.
lost.
Exactly.
Yes.
So what we're talking about in cybercrime in Kenya alone is a 10 billion shilling industry.
Let me ask the question. How many of these were employee-related?
Oh, good
So
question.
apparently, it's 80% of those. It's
But
80%
still,
from
it-
within.
From within. Okay.
So it's the bank side is a bit different because you got one attack from Eastern Europe and that kind of environment. Then you've got the internal employees who give access. Now that number is slightly different because it could be 80% are done locally, but the bulk of the money is stolen elsewhere.
Yeah, but
Can
don't
I-
they need
Yeah.
locals to enable them to do that?
Not necessarily.
Yeah, well, both. But I'll give you an example, which happened. Let's take the example that didn't happen in Kenya, but of course can happen anywhere. Those really the big criminal organizations, they're well organized. They're multinationals.
Yes.
So what they do, and there are examples there. Now you have an organization, you have your own IT department, and you are well organized, you think, and now you have a vacancy for somebody at IT, and now somebody applies to it, and you have a candidate, a very bright candidate, and they get into it. They start as a junior. Now they get a bit of access, but not to the main things. They get a bit of access. Now, clever enough, they create a challenge, and now they sort the challenge.
Yeah.
Now you feel, oh, that's a good guy. He can be trusted,
And that's where the breach comes.
and that's where the breach comes.
There's
Trust
a lot,
and
yeah. There's a lot for us to keep our eyes open about, even as we continue with these conversations. So, Jules, Delahaije, we want to thank you so much for being here with us this morning and looking into some of these issues and what the threats could actually be. Asante sana until we talk again.
You're welcome.
Good morning.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.